the same. We share the love. Embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. And like we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World. We have so much in store to talk about as far as what's happening in the news. Last night we had a show, and some people were saying that the Somalis had never voted for Trump. Well, in fact, I did a little research. They were a key ingredient for the president to win the last run for presidency. So we're going to take a look at what the Somalians are actually saying. In fact, we're going to see that one individual, he has 5 children and under big threat of being kicked out of this country. So we're not going to waste we have a few people here. We have Stella in the building. Thank you for the continued support. But let's get right to it, folks. I want to show you guys what this Somalian had to say about Donald Trump and how he actually supported the president.
What would you say to the president if you were standing here right now?
Mr. President, we campaign for you. We have hope in you. We see hope in you. Please differentiate between good, bad, and evil.
That's a Somali immigrant who voted for President Trump in 2024, but now Trump is demonizing Somalis in America, specifically here in Minnesota.
I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. We're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country.
They were actually having Somali rallies trying to help President Trump become president because they felt like he would have a better economy and also help them stand up for their rights. And now we're seeing what's happening.
I got 5 children. My children are no garbage. I campaigned for the president in 2020.
So the president of the United States says that they're garbage, but this man is pushing back. Now we're talking about a Trump supporter. He's saying that his 5 children are not garbage.
24. I actually went out and we reached 50 million people endorsing Trump 7 days before the election.
What drew you to the president?
Because we believed he was an agent of chaos. We couldn't afford anything back then. There was a fentanyl crisis. There was an issue of affordability. The living standards went down. Crime issues. These are 5 very important things to us. And we believe that Trump would be the solution to it. I've been a Republican for over 25 years. I'm not going to stop being a Republican. But what I do know is for a fact is we're getting killed out here because people are saying, we told you so.
Wow, look at that. Did you see that? So there you have it. There's a Trump supporter that got the news that he might be getting the boot. But let's look at it a little bit deeper. I want to show you what Donald Trump had to say at the White House about this matter. Let's get to it.
Mr. President, do you think he should resign over the fraud scandal in his state?
And who should?
Tim Walz, over the fraud scandal in his state.
Look, I think the man.
Now, keep in mind, this is in Tim Walz's state, right? So notice what the president says.
He's a grossly incompetent man. I thought that from the day I watched JD destroy him and the day.
Keep in mind that Tim Walz was the individual that ran with Kamala Harris for president. Okay, we have Eric in the building. Shout out to you, Eric. Stella says, welcome in and thank you for joining Watching the World. Please be respectful to the host and everyone in the chat. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for that.
I was saying, who is more incompetent, that man or my?
I'd like to ask you guys to hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much for hitting the thumbs up.
Man. I had a man and he had a man. They were both incompetent, and I had a man and a woman. I thought she was very incompetent too, but now she's leading the field, and I think she's leading the field in this for the nomination. Anyway, look, that's up to them. That's up to the Democrats. You know, the problem with them is they have really bad policy. And I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want him to change it necessarily because I want to run against it. Whether it's not going to be me, it's going to be somebody that's going to probably sitting at this table. Could be a couple of people sitting at this table. Could be a couple of people running together sitting at this table, you know. But I want them to win because we've done a great job for this country, and I want that to be carried forward. And you know, I think we have a tremendous bench, really a tremendous bench. But no, I think that Waltz is a grossly incompetent man. There's something wrong with him. Okay, there's something wrong with him. And when you look at what he's done with Somalia, which is barely a country, you know, they have no anything. They just run around killing each other. There's no structure. And when I see somebody like Ilhan Omar, who I don't know at all, but I always watch her for years. I've watched her complain about our Constitution, how she's being treated badly. Our Constitution, the United States of America, is a bad place. Hates everybody, hates Jewish people, hates everybody. And I think she's an incompetent person. She's a real...
For those of you who may not realize that she's actually Somalian too.
Terrible person. But when I watch what is happening in Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes, but this beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off, and now I'm understanding, and you're going to look at, I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country is no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I can say that about other countries too. I can say it about other countries too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country.
There's actually thousands upon thousands of Somalis in this particular country. Can you imagine how they must feel when the president feels this way? In fact, he feels that they are garbage, with no doubt about it, folks.
You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it.
Tell us how you feel about it in the comment section. We want to know, do you agree with the president, or do you think that the Somalis should have a chance? Okay, we have Inlock Flick says, I don't want Trump in my country. Okay, so definitely not a Trump supporter. He said, the president of the United States, okay, the comments is moving fast. Let's see if I can find it. The president of the United States is no longer an office of respect and dignity. That's all I have to say. Okay, thank you for your comment. Thank you guys for participating. Little Boy 7500 says, all red voters think Somalia is garbage. Okay, so that's the trend among the Republicans. All right, Maverick says, clean house. Okay, he wants a nice clean sweep. Agreeing with the president. Okay, the Soros Museum says they are thieves. In fact, while I was in court this week covering the Luigi Mangione trial, I saw that they're accused of over I think billions, or at least $1 billion of fraud from the Somalis. I think that this is what triggered this whole thing. Okay, guys, the comments are coming in. Thank you very much. Inlock says, tipping point for sure. We are tipping into a full unmitigated fascism. Okay, thank you very much for being here and the support. Aryan, welcome back, says, he doesn't get it. He is the reason this country is turning into a shithole. Okay, so we have some pushback against the president. We have people here from both sides of the aisle. Kathy says, most Americans want you out of office. Okay, not a Trump supporter there. Thank you, Kathy, for being here. Keep attending with us. Peter Gonzalez says, this president is the most corrupt ever. Wow, definitely not a Trump supporter. Okay, the Resorrow Museum says, thank God for Trump. Okay, Trump supporter there. Hope and peace. Okay, says he is a real disgrace. Okay, what a mixture in the comment section. Marie says Somalia. Okay, does that mean that? Okay, all right. Peter Gonzalez says his approval rating is underwater. I believe that's what you're saying. Okay, Maverick, new subscriber. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. It means a lot. Thank you for hitting the like button and so forth. Peter Gonzalez. We usually have this every day at lunch, but I was in Costa Rica for a week. And then this week I'm covering the Luigi Mangione trial, or hearing, but after that we'll keep having the news at noon. Peter Gonzalez says he is a real disgrace. This is the worst president in United States history. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you from Stella to Maverick. Let's get back to it.
You go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go.
So tell us what you think. Do you think we're taking in a lot of garbage into this country? A lot of people said that Biden brought in record millions of people. What do you guys think about that? Do you think people should get a fair shot, even though they came in the country illegally? Keep that in mind.
Oh, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Yeah.
I think the tide has changed in America. I think we're going to start seeing a lot of this taking place. Yes, indeed. Before we move on to Epstein, we have some of the pictures. Epstein, we were talking about Epstein a lot, right? About 2 months ago. And then we had all these, the Charlie Kirk shooting and all these things happen. But now Epstein is back on the block. And it's a lot of heat coming in the direction of the president of the United States, but not only him, but a lot of high-ranking political figures that may have some sort of connection to Epstein. Not saying it's totally nefarious, but something to consider. And we're going to get to the photos that was there. Okay, Hope and Peace says Trump is destroying your country. Okay, Hope and Peace, where are you from? Tell us where you're tuning in from. Okay, Stella says, hope you enjoy. Okay, Peter Gonzalez says the Republican Party is crumbling and they know it, and they're scared to death about losing the midterm election. I think that's a real problem. I think the midterm election is going to probably be frightening for a lot of people, but we'll have to see what happens. Maverick says, stealing from our country, fraud, talking about the Somalians. Okay. So definitely Maverick is not having it. Okay, Teresa says Trump is great. Okay, Trump is great. Inlock Flick says, is it not the definition of racism to blame an entire group for the actions of a few? Okay, well, that's a good way of looking at it. Okay, Hope and Peace says, pure fascism. Okay, so let's get to Epstein. You're going to see some creepy things from the photos that came right off of the island. The Democrats have released it. So obviously people are going to say, well, this is just another Democratic spin. But let's look at some of these photos to see if we can determine what's happening on the island, right?
House Democrats releasing more records from its Jeffrey Epstein files. We are seeing never before seen pictures of the convicted sex offender's former private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where he held parties and carried out much of his abuse on young girls. Here's D.C. Bureau reporter Ross Ketchke.
Tonight, a never-before-seen look into Jeffrey Epstein's private island villa. Photos and videos show oceanfront view.
Can you imagine he owned the entire island? Man, must have a lot of money. Where did that money come from?
Lavish living areas and a peek into the disturbing home of the infamous sex criminal.
They have a right to know. They need to know exactly what's in the files and what are in these images.
The images released by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee.
Look like it says power, deception, okay, music, time. Not sure what's going on here.
They include a picture of this room with a dentist chair surrounded by masks mounted to the wall. plus a close-up of Epstein's phone. Some names are redacted, but one listed on the speed dial says Larry Sell.
That's why they want to invest.
In the last few weeks, renowned economist Larry Summers has stepped away from his role at Harvard University and been shunned from business organizations after his name appeared in recently released Epstein emails. He's just the latest high-profile person to be swept up in the Epstein.
So we get a glimpse as to why people don't want these emails and information coming out. Could you see what happened to Larry? The minute the emails dropped, he has to resign from Harvard. And you know, the president of the United States is mentioned, Bill Clinton, among many other people, Steve Bannon, and so forth. What was really taking place with Epstein? Will we ever find out? What do you guys think? Do you really want to know? Do you care at this point? Even if something major came out in reference to the president of the United States, would anyone really care? That's the million-dollar question.
Scandal. The now former Prince Andrew stripped of his British royal titles for his years-long relationship with Epstein and his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell.
Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, in my book, are monsters. They perpetrated this child sex trafficking ring against more than 1,000 victims.
And a new Hollywood.
Like, who are all these thousands of thousand victims? It has to be a lot of people. They must be around. We've heard about one, at least, that took her own life. I believe it was this year, I think it was April, something like that. Virginia Dufresne was her name. Okay, Peter Gonzalez says, Trump is a great liar. You're right. Okay, you're responding to someone. Famous says, we're waiting for Trump's. Ooh, we don't want to say that. Sorry about that. Peter Gonzalez says, I know I am. I'm going to have a party when I see it. Okay, so you guys are wishing demise, or someone is wishing demise on the president. Okay, little boy says, blue voters live Somalia. Oh, no, that's not good. Come on, guys. We have to kind of soften this up a bit because YouTube policies are pretty strict. And I'm trying to read your comments, so please don't lead me in the wrong direction. Aryan says he is the worst president ever. So not a Trump supporter, but thank you for being here as well. Michael says, everyone, this is just to keep us from looking at the tail wagging the dog. Okay. All right. Great point. Trump and this administration, and this is from Peter Gonzalez again, says that they're a disgrace and these people who support him are idiots. Okay. Little boy says blue voters love. Oh, no, we cannot say that, folks. We cannot say that. Okay, we can't say that either. Wow, we have a rough day today. Hope and peace. Maybe that comment we can get through. Let's see. How can anyone still be a Trump supporter, a criminal, a predator, a sick man? Okay, not happy with the president. Noise Like says, yes, we are. Not sure what that exactly means. Could you elaborate? Perhaps I missed something. All right, Teresa says, those that don't support Trump are idiots. Okay, Teresa's a strong Trump supporter. Michael Moore says, God bless America. Home of the brave, huh? Let's get back to it.
Documents is expected soon. Congress voting overwhelmingly last month to order the Department of Justice to release all of its files on Epstein. Plus, the Oversight Committee is now in possession of Epstein's financial records turned over by JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank.
There were more than $1 billion in transactions in this particular sex trafficking scheme. And we need to follow the money.
And tonight we have also learned that Ghislaine Maxwell is planning to.
Now, when they say the $1 billion in this scheme, keep in mind that the government has officially said that there was over $1 billion in wires being sent to and fro from Epstein. So I'm pretty sure if they look close enough, they can give you an idea of what was really happening and who the money was going to. It's a matter of whether or not it really will happen.
Ask a federal court to release her from prison and give her a new trial. She is currently serving 20 years in prison for her role.
So Ghislaine Maxwell was his counterpart, right? Somewhat involved with most of it. She's currently in a sweeter prison because she actually did the interview with Todd Blanche, who was the president's prior to coming into office. He was the president's attorney. I actually saw him in court when I attended Donald Trump's trial, but now he sits high ranking in the government. And after he met with Ghislaine Maxwell, she was moved to a prison camp But do you guys think that she should be pardoned? Do you think that she should be able to come home much sooner than the 20 years she was sentenced to? Tell us what you think.
In Epstein's sex trafficking ring, and that request for a new trial could potentially complicate it for the DOJ to release evidence from her case, especially items from the grand jury like testimony and financial records.
For the first
Okay, very good. So that's that for Epstein. Now we're going to take a look at Seth. I had mentioned last night on the live that as I was traveling to Luigi's trial or hearing this week, there were people protesting on the bypass saying that Seth is a war criminal. All right, that's what they're trying to push that narrative. Do you guys believe that that's true as well? Let's see what's actually happening, because you know in Venezuela they're blowing up the boats, folks.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Today, lawmakers watched the video the Trump administration doesn't want you to see. Back in September, they released this video of a drone strike extrajudicially killing what the Defense Department says are drug traffickers, though we have to note that we have zero independent confirmation that they in fact were. We now know the video they released on social media was not the full video, because it turns out that 2 men survived that attack that you're seeing there, an attack that killed others. So, in what seems to be a blatant violation of the laws of war, they were struck again, the shipwrecked men, 3 more times. They ended up dying. Today, members of Congress were able to watch the full video, not just the first strike. Democratic Congressman Adam Smith, the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee, spoke to the New Republic about what he saw. Quote,
so this is the case where they hit the boat twice, because when they hit it the first time, the individuals were still alive, so they took them out with the second blow.
Smith said the video shows 2 men sitting without shirts atop a portion of a capsized boat that was still above water. That portion, Smith said, could barely have fit 4 people. It looks like 2 classically shipwrecked people, Smith said, but in the briefing, lawmakers were told it was judged these 2 people were capable of returning to the fight, Smith added. He called it a highly questionable decision that these 2 people on that obviously incapacitated vessel were still in any kind of fight. Congressman Smith is going to join me in just a moment, but several other Democrats who viewed the footage shared his concerns.
Tell us what you think about the strikes on these boats out by Venezuela. Do you think it's fair? Do you think that it's proper? Or what about the intel? Do you think the intelligence is accurate that these individuals are drug traffickers? Because, you know, out of Colombia, they're reporting that in some cases, they're just fishers, right? Just fishing away.
What I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service. You have 2 individuals in clear distress, without any means of locomotion, with a destroyed vessel, who are killed by the United States. Any American who sees the video that I saw will see the United States military attacking shipwrecked sailors. Bad guys, but attacking shipwrecked sailors.
Video was very disturbing, and I think Congress needs to see it. I'm going to say the video was very troubling, and I think more people need to see it. But I want to better understand.
Well, these guys look like they're terrified by what they saw on the video, right? Famous says, God's not in America while Trump's here. Okay. All right. Noah says, if you lived in the New York City or in California, Los Angeles in the past 5 years, it's become completely unsafe in those sanctuary cities. It's horrible. So much traffic. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm actually in New York City quite often, and I can confirm that they have the National Guard there now. I see the National Guard in the subway, on the streets, and they're heavily armed. Okay, Marie says Somalians are people that deserve the best of life like anyone else. They are not garbage. The pilgrims were undocumented immigrants. We've come so far. Okay, Famous says, well, who's we? Okay. Maverick says, go home and fix your own country. So it looks like that's the new model of America. Little Boyd says, Omar said, we can't say that. Okay, guys, we got to clear out these type of bad comments. Okay, Hope and Peace says Epstein files now. Okay, that's what we're just covered. Maverick says stealing from America. Okay, Two Stroke, welcome back. Trump is amazing and making the world safe place. Okay, and Peter Gonzalez says how many illegals that are being arrested actually have a criminal record? There's a thing called due process of the law. ICE is also illegal. Okay, wow. Thank you for your opinion, Peter. We appreciate that. Rosewood says Trump was not involved with Epstein. I voted for Trump 3 times and support him completely. Okay, strong Trump supporter there. Maverick says illegal is illegal. Okay, let's get back to it about the bombing of the boats.
Stand, process, justification.
For their part, Donald Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth insist they did nothing wrong. They said they were targeting so-called narco-terrorists, and they're passing the buck to Navy Admiral Frank Bradley. Hegseth says Bradley was the one who ordered the second strike and that the, quote, fog of war prevented him from even seeing the survivors. So Bradley was the one briefing lawmakers on that video today. It's clear this White House wants him to take the fall for this catastrophe. But lawmakers are not going to let Hegseth off the hook quite so easily. At least it doesn't seem so right now. Republican Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, a man who is no longer going to run for re-election, crucially, said the buck has to stop with the Secretary of Defense. And in fact, just about an hour ago, guess what? U.S. Southern Command announced another boat strike at Hegseth's direction, this one also with video, though we don't know if it's the complete video, and we don't know a whole lot of who was on that boat and why they were killed. I think it's fair to say the situation has the potential to overwhelm this defense secretary. The screws are starting to turn. Keep in mind, he is also dealing with a separate controversy today, Signalgate. Remember, back in March, Pete Hegseth was caught using a private signal chat from his private phone, non-classified communication channels, to share obviously sensitive military plans for an imminent operation in Yemen, including...
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Signalgate, where Hegseth took on heat for that as well.
The phrase, quote, all caps, this is when the first bombs will definitely drop. We know this because somebody on that signal chat accidentally just looped a journalist in on the entire text chain.
Okay, so we have so many comments. I'm going to try to get to as many as I can. Teresa says Republicans are not crumbling, the rats are. Okay. Hope and Peace says from Belgium, nice to have you here. The world is watching the total destruction of your once great country, pure fascism. Okay. People feel like the Americas is on the decline. But thank you for being here from Belgium. Peter Gonzalez says, I feel sorry for you if you support Donald Trump. Okay, not a Trump supporter there. Famous says, only if Republicans knew what the 14 points of fascism was. Okay, what are those 14 points? Break it down for us. Famous, tell everybody all about it. CC says, not true. Trump better than evil. Okay. Teresa says, hope is another government recipient. Okay. Maverick says, Democrats and Republicans been on that island. A lot of people have been on that island, it seems. And in fact, we're going to see more information about this in the coming week. Inlock says, I am a studied and devoted student of the Republic. I have nothing in common with the Republican Party. Wow, that's a strong statement. Famous says, but has the current president, okay, if you could just expound more. Nova says, that money came from being a power broker. Okay. Famous says, and why is the current president mentioned over 1,500 times more than anyone else? Are you referring to the Epstein files? So Donald Trump is in there that much. Okay. MD says, you think Americans have forgotten about the government shutdown and the fact Democrats would rather let people go hungry so they could get their insurance. Okay. Nice to have you here, MD. Thank you guys that took the time to like the video and share and subscribe. Maverick says Trump keeps the borders closed for the next 10 years. Fix the country. Okay, that's a pretty strong statement there. All right, we're going to move on to the DC bomber the pipe bomb guy, perhaps, and see what's going on with this story here.
Attorney representing Brian Cole Jr. and members of Cole's family left court today without answering any questions.
Now, this case dates back to January the 6th, and from what I understand, this guy was a Trump supporter. Let's keep that in mind. He's a Trump supporter. He was upset that Donald Trump did not win the election of some sort. So let's see.
Don Shorman, the man in the red tie, has been hired to represent Cole. Before the hearing began, Shorman told News 4 he was still building his defense.
Now, I want to touch on a point here. I noticed, just like in the case of Luigi Mangione, he was able to raise more than $1.4 million from the public for his defense. I wonder if this guy has raised tons of money as well, but some of these shooters have raised millions of dollars. What do you guys think? Why are we starting to see that? Is it because we do have GoFundMe, or do you think people, they kind of like that fight back spirit?
Team and would have a statement later. Brian Cole said very little in court today other than confirming he was 30 years old and had a high school education. The magistrate judge then read the charges against him and the years that he could get if he was convicted. As he was led out of the courtroom after a hearing that lasted less than 15 minutes, several family members stood up and yelled, "We love you, Brian," and then broke into tears. The FBI says Brian Cole Jr. is the person in these videos walking around the DNC and the RNC in January of 2021, the night before the attack on the Capitol. It took almost 5 years.
Now,
almost
if you
5
noticed,
years, but investigators
I
say
went
they
back.
have enough evidence.
Looks like he has on a mask, very similar garb as Luigi Mangione allegedly, with the medical mask and a hood on, very similar to what I saw in court for Luigi Mangione.
Evidence to convict him. In a 7-page court filing, the FBI says on January 5th, 2021, at approximately 7:10 p.m., Cole's Nissan Sentra was observed driving past a license plate reader at the South Capitol Street exit from Interstate 395 South, which is less than 1/2 mile from the location where the individual who...
Well, it looked like they have him up the creek, I guess. Let's see. Famous says Trump is a PDF. Well, I guess that's what you're trying to say. Wow. Okay. MD says insurance company donors billions more of taxpayers' money. Okay. Stella says enjoy what you're watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and consider becoming a member of the channel. Thank you very much, Stella. Lance says don't care. Okay. All right. Teresa says, nah, the truth will never actually come out. Too many big names are involved. I agree with you, Teresa. Nice having you here. Maverick says they all lie. Okay. Marie says Epstein was a creepy, fetish freak, and the same of his big money friends. Sadly, he is not the first of the last. Sick people. Okay. So he had a serious fetish there. Okay, Famous says, we want to know what hand did Donald Trump have with that guy? Oh, wow. So are you talking about the pipe bomb guy? You're trying to associate the president to that? Wow. Famous says, what was Donald Trump's business with Epstein? I'm not sure, but that's what people are trying to wait for a clear answer. Stella says, please be mindful of your language due to YouTube policies. That's very important, everybody. Mr. FNH says Biden was the best president ever because he would have randomly. Oh my goodness, we can't say that on here, guys. All right, let's get back to and finish this video here.
Place the devices was first observed. The agents also wrote, provider records show that the Cole cell phone connected with provider cell phone towers, consistent with the Cole cell phone being in the area of the RNC and the DNC. On January 5th, 2021, the Cole cell phone engaged in approximately 7 data session transactions with provider towers between 7:39 p.m. and 8:24 p.m. The FBI says it also has evidence Cole purchased bomb components at several stores in Northern Virginia. NBC News is reporting Cole is cooperating with the FBI and told agents he believed the 2020 election conspiracy theories. The 30-year-old has a job working in the Fairfax office of a bail bondsman. In court.
Wow, of all people, he's a bail's bondsman, and he got in trouble of this sort. All right, let's check out Letitia James. She was able to have her re-indictment canceled, but we're going to take a look and see, do you feel like this was vindictive prosecution from the president or associated with the president? Let's take a look.
This a major legal blow to Trump here. A grand jury in just the past few minutes, as we're coming to air, has refused to indict the New York Attorney General Letitia James. It's a big deal. This would have been the second indictment, right? Coming a week after a federal judge tossed the DOJ's mortgage fraud case against James and the Justice Department's case against former FBI Director James Comey. Now, this was all, of course, because of Lindsay Halligan, whether she had the right to be in the job. So the question is, were they going to go ahead and try James? Take two, they did. When her case was first tossed out, Attorney General Pam Bondi had vowed to take all available legal action, including this immediate appeal. And prosecutors can still bring another indictment against James, which, well, we'll see if that happens. She, of course, is one of Trump's top political targets.
The fascist and racist Attorney General of New York State, Letitia James. You have an Attorney General who's a total stone cold crook.
Letitia James was the individual, the lawyer that brought on the charges against Donald Trump here in New York City, where he received 34 felonies. I actually attended that trial as well.
New York State, Letitia James, a total crook. A crooked AG, Letitia James. Letitia James from New York. This is another real Lola. There's no question about Letitia James, the corrupt Attorney General of New York.
Caitlin Polance is out front live in Washington with this breaking news. And Caitlin, this coming just a few moments ago. And Letitia James, the James Comey case is obviously a more challenging one.
Guys that support the channel, please hit the like button if you don't mind. Thank you.
For them, right? I mean, once Lindsay Halligan's tenure was ruled not okay, that one really goes away. But Letitia James could have had a second life or a third life. So what does tonight's decision mean by this grand jury?
It means that the Justice Department is in a fraught time for all of these cases.
Ultimately, the Justice Department decided not to proceed with the re-indictment, but I wanted to know, do you guys feel like this was vindictive? Okay, let's get to some of the comments. Lordo says, I don't vote, but I think Trump is the greatest president of U.S. history. Wow. Maverick says, Democrats only care about illegals. Okay. All right. Critical says, allegedly, I don't think Luigi did it. Okay. Now I'm in court with a lot of his, I call them fans or supporters. That's a better word. And they feel the same as you, so you're not the only one. Daniel Price, welcome back. Daniel, thanks for the continued support. Says, if you honestly don't think Donald's bought off or takes bribes, you're fooling yourself. Okay, and stop conflating the matter, thinking all immigrants are illegals, etc. Okay, good comment. Maverick says, Biden is a PDF too. Okay, Candyman, nice to have you back. Candyman says he's guilty reason why they are trying to have evidence removed out of the court trial. Exactly. They're trying to have it moved. I'm going to touch on that a little bit before we end this video. I've been in court each day for the hearing. Walter Peters says Biden was a tool. Okay. Very good. Let's see here. Oh, Glory says, is this another one of those Democrat echo chambers? No, indeed. This is an independent station, or channel. Stella says, I'm doing well. Okay, great. Inlock says, sounds pretty balanced. Okay, oh, Glory. Let's finish this out.
Trying to bring the Donald Trump so once. The case against James Comey, the case against Letitia James, they both had been looked at previously by a judge. They had been approved by grand juries, and a judge had said, you know what, Lindsay Halligan is the U.S. attorney that Donald Trump has sent into Washington or into Alexandria, Virginia to lead these cases. She doesn't have that authority. So those cases were dismissed. This is take two to try and revive these cases. This one against Letitia James, the grand jury was assembled in a federal courthouse in Norfolk, Virginia today. And that grand jury looked at the possibility of mortgage fraud charges here. What we know from the previous version of this indictment is that Letitia James had made statements in a loan application about a second home in Norfolk, Virginia, to save a couple $1,000s essentially over the life of her mortgage.
Now, the president recently said that she committed some serious crimes if you look at the case, but this case, along with Comey's, are thrown out with technicalities in relation to the attorney that brought the charges on. So it's very important that we keep that in mind as well. So let's take a look now at the changes coming through with food stamps. There are new requirements, I think, for those who may receive it or have individuals in their family that receive it. It might be good to know this information. But before we do that, let's see if we have a few comments here. Okay, that's cursing. We try not to do too much cursing here. Okay, Stella actually says, please be mindful of the language due to the YouTube policies. Okay, Maverick says, James is guilty, needs to be in jail. Okay, so you stand with the president on that. You're saying she committed mortgage fraud. I think the case did involve mortgage fraud. Okay, let's see. ML says, Tisha James will be eventually prosecuted when her attorney stopped from dancing around. Okay, all right, thank you. Old Glory says, getting 31 felonies in New York is one case is like winning the lottery in Sierra Leone. That nonsense doesn't mean anything. Okay, thank you for that comment. Screaming Hand says, Trump is the greatest president ever to this planet except Jesus. Wow, that's the strongest one I've seen so far. You set a record today. You put him next to Jesus Christ. Wow. Okay. Eric says, great job to Stella. Yes, indeed. She does a great job. And Maverick continues to say illegal is illegal. Okay. Slovert says the left was completely silent on the Epstein files for 1,500 days under Biden. That's a great point. That's a true point. Let's go to this subject matter about the food stamps and the SNAP program.
So right here on live now from Fox, and one of those big headlines having to do with SNAP, as new work requirements have now been put into effect. We want to talk a little bit more about that. On Capitol Hill we go. Fox Business's Dan Botello joining us here with the latest.
Good evening. Well, starting today, food stamp recipients all across the country, millions of them, are going to have to start working, volunteering, or doing job training at least 80 hours per month. This is all under the one big...
Wow. Do you guys think that this is extreme, or do you think it's time for it? What do you think? This is a big change. It's almost like unemployment, where even if you can't find a job, they want you out there trying, and also you could go and spend your 80 hours volunteering, but you have to work.
Beautiful bill, of course, that was passed this past summer. And for the people who don't do that, well, this is what's going to happen. They can only receive benefits for 3 months in a 3-year period. This applies to Americans 55 through 64 years old who may have children.
This seems rather stressful, though.
14 to 18 years old. This also ends previous exemptions for many homeless people, veterans, and young adults aging out of foster care. Here's SNAP by the numbers, by the way. 42 million Americans are on it, with a majority at or below the poverty line, and in households that include children, seniors, or someone with a disability. Now, according to the Congressional Budget Office, the new requirements are expected to reduce the average monthly number of SNAP recipients by about 2.4 million people over the next decade. Here's Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins talking to Fox about allegations of SNAP fraud and even illegal immigrants using the program under the Biden administration.
Every state, for the first time in history, and this was in February, to send us their data and let us, with DOJ and a war room, actually start going through this data to better understand how this explosion of SNAP benefits.
If you really pay attention to Donald Trump, Elon Musk, the DOJ, and now you're hearing about the Somalians and the food stamps, all you hear is that there's so much fraud in the government, right? Did you ever think all of this would be coming out?
Happened under Joe Biden. We've studied about $100 billion in spend. We have found thousands and thousands of illegal use of the EBT card. We have been moving people off of SNAP. We've got almost 700,000 people, I think, we've moved off.
And if you're new to SNAP, these new rules would take effect immediately or at your next recertification if you're already on SNAP. Back to you.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be.
Okay, so that's a big change for individuals who receive this type of assistance. They're definitely going to have to get out and do some serious work. It won't be. The other day, someone in the comment section said the food stamps, that mentality is passed along for like 3 to 4 generations. I thought that was, that could be debated, but what do you guys think about that? You think people teach their children to rely on government assistance? Is that a real thing? Tell us what you think about it. Now we're going to get to Luigi Mangione. That'll be our last subject for today, news at noon. But keep in mind, folks, this Sunday night at 8 p.m., we will continue to have the weekly legal review with Calvin Johnson. So make sure you put that on your calendar so we could talk about the news from a legal aspect, having a real 25-year-long criminal defense attorney on the show. But let's talk about Luigi Mangione. His case is really taking over New York. A lot of people are interested in finding out what's going to happen with his life, because in this particular case at the federal level, his life is on the line. He could receive a death penalty. Let's get to it.
A crucial evidence hearing receiving national attention is on hold until Monday. Luigi Mangione, the suspect in the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, was unable to appear in court due to illness on Friday. His lawyers are arguing over what evidence should be admitted in his eventual trial.
Now, I was in the courtroom each day this week. I will say he looked like he was sick throughout the week because he kept sitting with his head leaning forward. I couldn't figure out if it was something mental or physical or what it was, but something seemed to be ailing him. So yesterday we all arrived in court nice and early, and then they came out after the judge took the bench. The judge actually stated that the defendant would not show up because he's ill. Yesterday we were supposed to have 2 officers at least. I think Officer Fox and Officer Waters, they both were involved in the arresting of Luigi Mangione. The defense is doing a really good job at shredding the officers to pieces because they've determined that the officers have lied a lot. In fact, they were standing in positions that kept Luigi from actually getting up and walking out of the building. And it also came out in court that just because he was wanted in New York State and there's wanted posters or what have you, that did not give them the right per se to arrest him. And I found that to be quite intriguing because I'm like, wow, I thought they would have that right, but no. So it's quite possible after they searched his bags. Now, one thing I will point out, in this particular case, her name is Karen Agnifilo, right? Her husband is the one that was the lead attorney for Sean Diddy Combs. The argument that the police are making is, oh, we thought he had a bomb in his bag. That's why we searched it without getting a warrant. So that's the big point of contention. But this is the key point, right? As they went through his bags and they pulled the gun, I think they have a diary. He had a lot of notes. You can see that he had recently went shopping at Best Buy. He bought a USB. He also was trying to buy a survival kit. But the defense did a good job in showing, and this is the key point, that basically you guys stood there talking to him for all of this time and you weren't concerned about his bag. So why all of a sudden now you're saying, oh, we thought his bag had a bomb? So they feel like it's a ruse because when Kern cross-examined Officer Detwilder and also Officer Fry, they basically show especially Fry said that last year when he went to the school for officers in Indiana, that they actually teach the officers it's okay to lie to individuals and it's okay to create a ruse just so you can basically get the truth out of the individual. Like, a lot of people were amazed that this is how the law works and that officers, now I knew that from watching shows like Cops and The First 48, it's come out so many times. Also in court, I've heard it before, But this is the point of contention, and I think the defense has done a great job in showing that the officers may have been incorrect in what they did. Now, whether you like it or not, that's a different matter, folks. I'm just telling you pretty much what I gathered from being in court. So I will be back in court Monday morning at 9:30, and again Monday night I'll bring you back some updates about what happened with officers Fox and Officer Waters. One thing about Officer Waters, it's a female officer, and basically, when the main officer was arresting Luigi, she called in. And basically, you kind of gathered that all the officers wanted to be there. This is like there was a big hype associated with Luigi because of his name. It was a high profile case. The defense did a great job in showing that as well. But for this particular female officer, she started to talk to the main officer, and she saw that his cam was on, and she stopped talking. She didn't want to say whatever she was going to speak in front of the camera. So the main officer cut the camera off. And so the defense is like, well, why are you cutting the camera off on at least 3 different occasions so that we can't hear what you're saying? Because it's very important for our client, Luigi Mangione. We want to get the full picture here. So it's an exciting case. What I like about the case, different than Sean Diddy Combs and also Donald Trump. Donald Trump's case was so boring. It was so boring. You didn't understand a lot of the procedures. I was actually in the courtroom. I think his name was Costello, the attorney. When the attorney got into it with the judge, they made all of us leave the courtroom. And then Donald Trump came out into the hallway with us. So we were right there with the president. Well, he wasn't the president at the moment. Now, Diddy's case was a lot of facts. You heard a lot about freak-offs and a lot about all sorts of wild things. But sitting there all day, you get so tired and sleepy. This case, what I like about it is a lot of video. So you get to see the body cam. It's almost like watching TV. So less people are sleeping. The other nice part about this case is that you have all the young ladies that really support Luigi. A lot of them are tied to different nonprofit organizations, and some are there because they're against the death penalty. Others are there because they think he's cute. A lot of times Luigi will turn around and the girls will hush up so that perhaps they can get a little eye contact. On Friday, I sat in front, or Thursday, I think it was Thursday, I sat in front of 2 of the girls and they asked me to move. So I moved to the far left because I was taller, right? So I was obstructing their view to Luigi Mangione. Out in the street, I interviewed several people. You can go back to the live. There's one girl, she's married to Luigi's AI, and she says that she's some sort of sapiosexual and she's attracted to highly intelligent men. And that's why she married his AI. So we're learning a lot. We're seeing things probably I've never seen before. A lot of females are out there all night long waiting to be in court because the line starts usually sometimes 24 hours or beyond just to be able to secure your seat in the courtroom. So you can only imagine what's going to happen when the actual trial starts on January the 9th. I'm pretty sure they'll kick off with jury selection, just like they did with Sean Diddy Combs. Now, that's pretty nice because you get to see hear all the individuals come through. And for whatever reason they can serve on the jury, or perhaps they can't. And you find out sometimes, like in the case of Diddy, a lot of these individuals were fans of Diddy. And then a lot of women would come in during the jury selection process and say, well, I saw the video of him kicking Cassie. I think he's guilty. And they obviously did not make the jury. So that's it, folks, for today. We've covered quite a few stories. And again, if you want to keep following the story about Luigi Mangione, tune in this week. I'll be in court each day attending the hearing in New York City, Lower Manhattan, right around the area where the World Trade Centers fell. Yes, indeed. So let's go through a few of the comments on our way out. Make sure you like the video, share, and subscribe. And let's see if we can get in and make sense of what everybody is saying. Let me go back a little bit to kind of capture a real conversations. Okay, I see there's a conversation between perhaps Candyman and Dan. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. Dan says 211 pounds is the average weight for people who receive SNAP benefits. Okay. He has the science to the matter. Candyman says our defense budget allows for the free trade worldwide, which brings in trillions of dollars in the GDP into the United States. We're not getting our defense budget. That would be cut in your income. Okay. Thank you very much. Stella says, thank you, Chad, for having healthy debates. Okay. Daniel Price says, what? What kind of babbling absurdity is that? The defense budget won't affect GDP one way or another, and most of our GDP through trade and sales is not through weapons. Get the F out of here. Okay. Candyman says it would, Daniel, maybe do a little more research into the subject. Okay, so they're going back and forth. Okay, quite the debate. We'll go a little bit further with the two of them. It sounds quite interesting. Daniel says, no, actually, it wouldn't. I know what I speak. You jingos that think we have a waste of money on the biggest, bestest military and all of this other absurdity, but talk about the side of your mouths. Okay, so then Candyman says, I'm sorry, Daniel. On this subject, you are wrong. All you have is feelings and no facts. I do like that. That sounds pretty catchy. Feelings and no facts. We have to write that one down, Stella. Aryan says, Mangione looks like a cartoon character in that photo. Yeah, people are really obsessed with this guy. I heard some people talking about he looks like an Italian, someone famously painted. It just goes on, but they really like the guy. I think you're going to get a few people on the jury potentially that feel the same way. So what I learned from Sean Diddy Combs' trial, because I thought that they put all this evidence out, I thought he was going to be cooked. And the jury was not having it. So I learned my lesson. And now I just have a wait and see attitude about these cases. You just never know. But he does have 3 different cases. He has a state case in New York, federal in New York, and also he has a case in Pennsylvania. So he's definitely facing a lot of, time. It's no doubt about it. But on the federal case, he's facing death. And so that's quite concerning. All right. Candyman says the world markets revolves around America, so you're wrong. Daniel says, oh no, and economies shouldn't revolve around stock markets. Okay, wow, these guys are really going back and forth. I'm enjoying the debate. I'll have to go back and read your whole dialogue. Patty Cakes, thank you for being here. Okay, she says, do you sit at Depp trial? No, I did not sit at that trial at all. Probably should have, though. Candyman says, thanks, Mel. Great show today. Thank you very much. All right. Aryan says, there's no American exceptionalism. The world pays attention to the U.S. because we can destroy the planet, and we elected a psycho who could actually do it. Worst president ever. So in this particular show, I've seen comments of Donald Trump being the best president ever, and now the worst president ever. What do you guys think makes the difference? Do you think it has to do with the news channel we watch or our experience through life? Tell us what you think. All right. So that's it, folks, for today. Thank you guys for being here. I wish I could do this show every day as I usually do. It's kind of tough being in court to be able to be in 2 places at one time. So we just have a little bit more days probably in court. There's 30 witnesses, so I could be in court all week. But as soon as I get out, I'll be back to this news at noon, the hot topics. And at 8 o'clock at night, I'd like to really go in on a lot of different subjects involving the news, especially the hot topics of the day. Openings is back. Nice to have you back, Openings. I missed you. Says, I hope he reads my comments. Oh, I did. But let me go back and read your other comments. Thank you, Openings. I would never miss you. All right. Opening says, there is no way Luigi walks. This state case is only functional as a way to later initiate appeals. Okay. And also says, my opinion is he's going away on the Fed side. Okay, so I covered all of your comments there. So you think he's out of here? Do you think he'll get the death penalty? Now that's the real big question too. Candyman says, I think it's people lack of research. We are opinion-based society. Yes, indeed. You hit the nail on the head, Candyman, with that one. We're very much opinionated people. All right. Thank you and Daniel for your consistent appearance on this show also. And I enjoy your dialogue. I think it's important that we have people here on both sides of the aisle and a lot of independents such as myself and Stella. It's very important. We all have a place in society. And when we come together and have these conversations, we get a chance to have a meeting of the mind sometimes, but then again, sometimes people want to go to war. But we should never get so upset with people, I think, that we go out on the street and gun them down. Or we see the case, the going trend, like with Charlie Kirk. Need I say any more, right? These are terrible situations. Debating, it helps each and every one of us with our intellect. And we should just stay within that realm and not go to violence. Thank you so much. Openings, I'm going to close with you. 2 comments. I don't think he'll get death. Okay, Openings. Okay. Opening says, killing people is never acceptable. I'm with you on that one. You know, but when people feel defeated, that's what they do. In fact, I was talking to a gentleman out on the street on Luigi's trial, and he said that violence is the only way forward because the powers that be don't listen to poor folks. So, a lot of people have different opinions about this, but some people feel like, this is not a new trend. I broke it down last night, I believe. In ancient Rome, you'd have the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes. These are the high-ranking Jews at the temple in Jerusalem. But then you'd have people, kind of like with the Catholic Church, people would become disgruntled and they would cause these schisms after a lot of these councils. And so then you'd have people protesting, and then now they're mad at the main group. So now you had the Protestants pushing back on the Catholics. So in the Jewish world, you had the Essenes. They were one of the groups that was pushing back on the Pharisees and the Sadducees in the temple. And so do you know what they did? They called them Sicaries, and they would come out of the mountain in broad daylight, take a knife, and they stab a Pharisee and take him out. And then they disappear into wherever they went to. So this type of pushback has been happening for a long time. Does it make it right? No, but it does give us an indication that we're always going to see people choose violence for whatever reason they do. And I'll leave you guys with that comment. Okay. Jeffrey Cortez says, hit the Cash App. Okay, I don't know about that one. That's not admissible here. We don't even know who you are. Okay, let's take care of that. All right. So, yes. All right. Opening says we are about to re-enter the Wild Wild West. Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you for that. And you guys have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Anybody traveling, tell us where you're going. Okay. Opening says violence begets more violence. It's an endless cycle. Sam Beard of December 4th Legal Committee is releasing a book about it. Okay. Thank you very much. You guys have a great day. If you're in a cold place, try to stay warm. It's freezing out here in New York. But on Monday, we'll be back in court covering Luigi. So if you want to know about the case, stay tuned all week. I'll be bringing you back updates.
Different voices, but the same song. Loving a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand.